Monsieur de Bonaparte, Napoleon, born August 15th, 1769. Height 4 feet 10 inches and 10 lignes. Physique good. Health excellent. His character displays docility, honesty, and a sense of gratitude. His conduct is blameless. Has regularly distinguished himself by his diligence in mathematics. Shows sufficient acquaintance with history and geography, but is weak at exercises and recreation. Should make an excellent naval officer. Deserves to be entered for the École Militaire at Paris. The door opened. Instinctively, I looked at the man who came in. Short, thin, his hair plastered on his temples, his step hesitating. He was not in the least what I had pictured to myself. I was so wanting in perception that I took him for a servant, a mistake which was confirmed when he walked across the room without taking any notice of me. He leaned his back against the chimney piece, raised his head, and looked at me with such an impressive, such a penetrating glance that I lost all my assurance under the fire of that questioning eye. To me, he had suddenly grown taller by 100 cubits. Bonaparte's reception by the troops was nothing short of rapturous. It was well worth seeing how he talked to the soldiers, how he questioned them one after the other, respecting their campaigns or their wounds, taking particular interest in the men who had accompanied him to Egypt. I have heard Madame Bonaparte say that her husband was in the constant habit of poring over the list of what are called the cadres of the army at night before he slept. He would go to sleep repeating the names of the corps, and even those of some of the individuals who composed them. He kept these names in a corner of his memory, and this habit came to his aid when he wanted to recognize a soldier and to give him the pleasure of a cheering word from his general. He spoke to the subalterns in a tone of good fellowship, which delighted them all, as he reminded them of their common feats of arms. I had been at the ball for hardly a few minutes when Napoleon came over to me from the other side of the ballroom. The Duchess herself presented me to him, and he made the usual remarks to me, very affably, but gazing intently into my face. Probably there is scarcely a human being who has the gift of fathoming a man almost at first glance and seeing through him, as one says, in a higher degree than Napoleon. He saw that I, for all my pitiful celebrity, was only a simple and unassuming old man, and since he apparently wished to leave me with a good impression of him forever, he changed himself for the moment into the form in which he could be sure of doing so. Never in my life have I seen a man more simple, quiet, mild, and unpretentious. There was not a sign that my companion was conscious of being a great monarch. He conversed with me like one old acquaintance with another, and what is more, a thing none of my equals have yet experienced, continued for an hour and a half without break and quite alone. Finally, I was able to see this man. I really must say that as I approached him, in no way did he make the impression on me that I had anticipated. I found him more corpulent than he is usually portrayed. His gait was hardly gracious, his manner lacking honor. He is fat, rather what we call pot-bellied, and although his legs are well shaped, they are rather clumsy, and his walk appears rather affected, something between a waddle and a swagger, but probably not being used to the motion of a ship might have given him that appearance. He is very sallow, with light grey eyes, and rather thin, greasy-looking brown hair, and altogether a very nasty, priest-like looking fellow. He never gave the smallest trouble to anyone, and every day was the same. He was very communicative, and seemed fond of being asked questions. His manners are by no means good, and his voice very harsh and unpleasing. His teeth were even, but rather dark, and I afterwards found that this arose from his constant habit of eating licorice, of which he always kept a supply in his waistcoat pocket.